Well, howdy, boys. Just wanted to take the opportunity to talk about the 4th Gen. This is used to be my personal 4th Gen. I used for myself. Now it got released into the fleet, and the driver sadly hurt himself, so this truck was just sitting around. I obviously didn't skip the opportunity, and I jumped right in it. I'm running around town all day on it, so I figured I'd share with you boys the attributes that you wouldn't notice just by looking at the truck. You know, the aesthetics, the fifth between the 4th Gen. By the way, for the guys that aren't regular, my personal rig is a 5th Gen 3500 with an ISIN, which I'm talking about, which I'm driving now, is a 14, which makes it a 4th Gen with 342 rear end with an ISIN, obviously Cummins. And with that in mind, just wanted to underline the biggest differences when you start driving this truck. Obviously, I got a personal attachment to this truck. I've spent years with it. It served me well, and the only reason I bought another truck is because they put a new engine in it. That is it. If it was just sheet metal, you guys could have had it. Ram would have not had me there, but the fact that they put a new engine, I had to stay on top of my mechanical expertise as far as the Ram goes. I ordered me a 5th Gen as soon as I can. So that's the reasoning. So right there and then it shows you that I was truly happy with my 4th Gen. There's no reason other than the 5th Gen having a new engine that I got out of this truck. So with having I'd call it minimal experience with the 5th Gen compared to the 4th Gen, I'll still talk about it. So this 4th Gen, first thing that comes to surface is the fact that it does not have the brutal torque of the 5th Gen. The 5th Gen has really brutal torque from, let's say, 1,000 up until 1,1500. The 4th Gens, they pull fairly well. They pull well, the average, the RPM that you want to be in, 1,500 to 2,000 while you're towing. But it's fine from 1,000 to 1,500, but it is not brutal like the 5th Gen. So I'm referring to this truck. This 4th Gen is just not as brutal. That's as far as that. Trying to compare stock to stock. Keep in mind my 5th Gen is stock right now, and this one is, let's just say the tuning is improved. With that in mind, I'm not 100% on this, what I'm about to say, but I will share it out there. The first thing that surfaces is the fact that the exhaust brake on the 4th Gen is much stronger. The reason I'm underlining it's not just me. I have other 5th Gen trucks that are in the fleet, and guys are working. They're telling me the same thing, that they're seeing that the exhaust brake is much weaker. It doesn't brake as quick and whatnot. So with that in mind, sorry guys, I had to put the camera a little bit down. State Patrol isn't too happy with me. With that in mind, I didn't. Hold on a sec. I guess he's fine. So with the exhaust brake being weaker, it's not just me. My guys have underlined that as well. And as I've mentioned, it's not quite fair because this tuning is improved on the 4th Gen compared to my 5th Gen of stock. So as far as performance attributes and towing, you will notice that from the get-go. Also, as far as towing, it doesn't hold the gear as long. The 4th Gen does not hold the gear as long as the 5th Gen when it comes to exhaust brake, and that's a huge thing. The fact that, hold on a second. So as far as towing goes, those are the things I wanted to underline. So someone that's debating to go 4th or 5th Gen, I just wanted to underline it, you'll be perfectly fine. Like me, myself, I'm somewhere in the 30,000 pound gross weight right now. And the truck just pulls fine. But the matter is, it doesn't have that brutal torque off the line. That's all. I'm just trying to underline something an average guy is going to notice as far as working this truck. If you're going to pull something really light, you're probably not even going to be able, or not going to have the opportunity to tell the difference. As you can tell, I'm probably giving it about a quarter throttle right now. I'm just holding it there, and you can tell it accelerates just not quite quarter throttle. It accelerates just fine. So it's not a matter of being short on power. It's a matter of the ease factor. So next thing, let's go to fit and finish. I absolutely love the 4th Gen. As you know, I have a personal attachment to this truck, but this is a limited. Here, let me try to show you. This is a limited truck, and and the driver's very fortunate to have a limited. We all could agree on that one. It's a very nice truck. But the finish on the limited and the 4th gen is better than the 5th gen. I know some of y'all are gonna fall off your chairs and be like, how dare you? 5th gen is more fancy in a way, but the 4th gen is more practical. Is it because I'm used to it? You know, you could say that, but hey, I've had a 5th gen over half a year. I mean, I'm really pulling up to a year here shortly. In a couple months, I'll have a 5th gen for a year. I think I got about April last year, roughly was when I got the 5th gen, but more or less. I've had good experience with it. A good amount of experience with it, and it's just the quality isn't there. It's sad. I feel like they just grabbed what they had out of the bins, you know, the leftovers on the leather. Where the 4th gen, it's one piece of leather, should I say. It's the same quality leather all around. Maybe other aspects. The 5th gen, it almost feels like they pieced the leather aspect of it. As far as plastics are plastics, but the biggest thing that bothers me on the 5th gen is the plastic down here. It's not solid. It's very cheap. I mean, this is cheap plastic too, but at least wraps around and it, you know, hugs the steering wheel. The 5th gen does not do that. So yes, I'm nitpicking, but I'm just sharing with you my experience. You know what I mean? The best thing you could do is compare both vehicles. And a guy like me that's driven this vehicle for 150,000 miles and driven a 5th gen over 30,000 miles, that, you know, that gives you some hands-on experience, and that's the best experience you could have. Especially, you know, just hauling your rear end or towing and doing all sorts of stuff with it. I just made a video and I referred to a 4th gen. I was referring to this 4th gen. This 4th gen is horrible off-roading. Just the way it's set up, it's just horrible off-roading. It has the 5100 Bilsteins, and people have good things to say about them. I don't have a whole lot of good things to say about them as far as off-road. So this is the truck I was comparing to. There's plus and minus to everything, but I'm very, all in all, I do miss the 4th gen, and if I could have it my way, I'd still be driving a 4th gen. Just to sum it up, I don't want to make this video longer than it needs to be. That's the short gist of it, and I underlined the things that, you know, popped out to me. Driving a 5th gen for so long and then having the opportunity to drive a 4th gen. So anyways, all in all, the 5th gen is not a bad truck. I just feel it's a transitioning truck. There's always going to be a newer, better truck out there, but the new generation, I feel like the full-on 5th gen or whatever they want to call it is coming around the corner, and they just use the current 5th gen to step it over. I know some of you guys are going to hate me for this, but that's the way I feel, and that's what you guys are getting. You're getting the honest truth. I'm just talking about it. Anyways, boys, as always, may the Lord bless you, and may you almighty find day. Ciao. Bye.